wealth rule. Most people break without realizing it. Most people believe building wealth is complicated. They think it requires a high income, a perfect investment strategy, a successful business, a lucky break, or some secret financial knowledge that only wealthy people understand. But what if the biggest reason most people struggle financially has nothing to do with any of those things? What if the real problem is that they break one of the most important wealth rules every single month without even realizing it? Because when you study people who successfully build wealth over long periods of time, you begin noticing a pattern. They don't necessarily earn the most money. They don't always have the best jobs. They don't always come from wealthy families. But they follow one rule consistently, a rule that sounds simple, almost too simple, yet it quietly determines whether money grows or disappears. And the shocking part? Most people spend years doing the exact opposite. Let's break it down. Part 1. The rule nobody talks about. The wealth rule is simple. Pay yourself first, not second, not after the bills, not after the shopping, not after the vacation, not after everything else is finished. First, before anyone else gets paid, before lifestyle gets upgraded, before spending decisions are made, before money has a chance to disappear. And this sounds obvious, but if it were obvious, more people would be doing it. Instead, most people follow a completely different system, a system that feels normal, but quietly keeps them stuck. Part 2. How most people handle money. Think about what happens when the average paycheck arrives. Money comes in. Immediately, money starts leaving. Rent, mortgage, car payments, insurance, subscriptions, food, entertainment, shopping, random expenses, unexpected costs, and by the end of the month, whatever remains gets saved. At least that's the plan. The problem, very little remains. Sometimes nothing remains. And when this process repeats month after month, years pass without meaningful financial progress. Not because income was too low, but because wealth building was treated like an afterthought. The future got whatever the present didn't consume, and the present usually consumes a lot. Part 3. Why the brain makes this mistake. Here's what's fascinating. The human brain is naturally designed to prioritize today. Not 10 years from now, today. Immediate needs feel real. Immediate desires feel real. Future benefits feel distant, abstract, easy to ignore. That's why buying something today often feels more rewarding than investing for a future that hasn't arrived yet. The brain loves immediate rewards, and modern society is built around that reality. Advertisements encourage immediate action. Social media encourages immediate comparison. Stores encourage immediate spending. Everything is designed to make future wealth feel less important than present pleasure. And unless someone intentionally fights that tendency, the default outcome is consumption, not wealth. Part 4. The difference between wealth builders and everyone else. Now let's look at what wealthy people often do differently. When money arrives, they immediately allocate part of it toward the future. Savings, investments, assets, ownership, long-term growth. Only after that do they decide how much is available for spending. Notice the difference. Most people save what's left after spending. Wealth builders spend what's left after saving. That single reversal changes everything because it guarantees progress, even during imperfect months, even during busy months, even during emotional months. The future gets funded first, and consistency matters more than perfection. Part 5. The invisible power of small amounts.
Many people avoid saving because they believe the amount is too small. They think, it's only a little money. It won't make a difference. I'll start later. But wealth is rarely built through giant amounts in the beginning. It's built through repetition. A small amount saved consistently often beats a large amount saved occasionally. Because habits create momentum. Momentum creates discipline. Discipline creates results. And results reinforce the habit. That's how wealth starts. Not with huge money, with repeated behavior. Part 6. The Lifestyle Expansion Trap. One of the biggest reasons people break the wealth rule is lifestyle expansion. Income increases, and almost immediately, spending increases too. A raise arrives. Lifestyle improves. A bonus arrives. Lifestyle improves again. A promotion arrives. Expenses grow even faster, and suddenly, despite earning more than ever, financial progress remains slow. Why? Because wealth building never moved to the front of the line. It stayed at the end, waiting for leftovers. And leftovers rarely create freedom. Part 7. Why high income isn't enough. This is where many people become confused. They assume wealth is mostly about earning more. But earning more and building wealth are different skills. Someone can earn an incredible income and still struggle financially. Why? Because income solves nothing if every dollar immediately gets assigned to consumption. Wealth is not determined by how much enters your life. It's determined by how much remains in your control. That's why there are people with average incomes building impressive net worth, and people with extraordinary incomes building very little. The difference is behavior, not just income. Part 8. The compounding effect most people never see. The reason this rule is so powerful is because of compounding. At first, the results seem tiny, almost invisible. Nothing dramatic happens. No overnight transformation. No instant success. But year after year, the money begins working. Growth creates growth. Returns create returns. Assets create more assets. And eventually, the progress that once seemed invisible becomes impossible to ignore. This is why people often underestimate wealth builders. They see the outcome, but they never saw the years of consistency behind it. Part 9. The real cost of breaking this rule. Now let's talk about what happens when someone ignores this wealth rule. The cost is not just financial, it's opportunity. Every year spent without investing is a year compounding cannot work. Every year spent prioritizing consumption delays future freedom. Every year spent saving last instead of first reduces long-term growth. And because these costs are invisible, most people never notice them. They only notice the outcome years later, when they wonder why financial freedom still feels so far away. Part 10. The moment everything changes. The turning point happens when someone stops treating wealth building like an optional activity
and starts treating it like a mandatory expense. Just like rent, just like utilities, just like any other important bill. Because the future version of you deserves payment too. And once that mindset develops, everything begins changing. Savings become automatic. Investing becomes normal. Financial stress begins decreasing. And wealth starts growing almost quietly. Not because life became perfect, but because priorities changed. Final thought. The wealth rule most people break without realizing it is simple. Pay yourself first. Not what's left, not someday, not when income increases, now. Because every paycheck creates a decision between present consumption and future freedom. And the people who consistently choose future freedom, even in small amounts, often end up living completely different financial lives years later. Not because they were lucky, not because they were smarter, but because they followed one simple rule over and over again. A rule most people ignore. A rule most people underestimate. And a rule that quietly separates people who build wealth from people who spend their entire lives chasing it.